The gold wedding band slipped from his trembling fingers, landing with a hollow ping against the hospital floor. Rajiv's world collapsed as the doctor's words echoed in his ears, "I'm sorry, but we couldn't save her." In one devastating moment, he became both a new father and a widower, left alone with their newborn daughter and a wedding dress that would never be worn again. If this story touches your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more emotional journeys that reflect the complex reality of life, love, and resilience. Rajiv Singh had never imagined himself as a single father. At 32, his life had been meticulously planned: a successful career as an architect, marriage to his college sweetheart Aisha, and eventually, a family. The pregnancy had been a joyous surprise, coming just months after their engagement. They decided to postpone the wedding until after the baby was born, wanting Aisha to have her dream ceremony without compromise. The nursery walls were half-painted the day Aisha complained of a headache. By evening, she was unconscious. The doctors diagnosed a rare pregnancy complication, a cerebral hemorrhage that required immediate surgery. Their daughter, Mira, was delivered by emergency C-section at 7 months. Aisha never woke up. "Baby, it's just you and me now," Rajiv whispered to the tiny infant in the NICU, her fragile body connected to tubes and monitors. He slipped his wedding band, the one he'd bought in anticipation of their ceremony, onto his pinky finger, a silent promise to the woman he'd lost and the daughter who remained. The first months passed in a blur of grief and exhaustion. Rajiv's mother moved in temporarily, teaching him how to care for Mira while he struggled to function. His architecture firm granted him extended leave, but financial pressures mounted. The wedding dress remained in its garment bag, hanging like a ghost in his closet, a reminder of dreams unfulfilled. "You should donate it," his mother suggested gently one evening. Aisha would want someone else to find joy in it. But Rajiv couldn't bear to part with it. Not yet. As Mira grew from infant to toddler, Rajiv found himself transforming too. The man who once spent hours perfecting building designs now crafted elaborate bedtime stories. The architect who had planned his life in exacting detail learned to embrace the beautiful chaos of raising a child alone. On Mira's 3rd birthday, Rajiv's sister Priya arrived with her camera to document the celebration. She captured Mira's delight as she blew out candles on a princess cake, her father watching with eyes full of both joy and sorrow. "You're doing an amazing job, Bai," Priya said, reviewing the photos. "But when was the last time you thought about yourself? About finding someone?" Rajiv shook his head. "Mira is my everything now." That night, after tucking his daughter into bed, Rajiv opened his closet and touched the garment bag containing Aisha's wedding dress. For the first time since her death, he unzipped it, running his fingers over the intricate beadwork and delicate lace. Memories flooded back, Aisha's excitement when she'd found it, how she'd refused to let him see it before their wedding day. "It's bad luck," she'd teased. The irony wasn't lost on him now. The following week, a new family moved into the apartment next door, Kavita Sharma and her son Arjun, who was about Mira's age. Their first meeting happened in the building's small garden, where Mira was attempting to build a sandcastle. "Can I play too?" Arjun asked shyly. Before long, the children became inseparable, and Rajiv found himself increasingly drawn to Kavita's warm smile and gentle wisdom. She too carried her own burdens, divorced after her husband's infidelity, rebuilding her life as a single mother and freelance graphic designer. "It gets easier," she told Rajiv one evening as they watched their children play. "The guilt, I mean." "Guilt?" he questioned. "For finding moments of happiness after everything falls apart. For laughing when you think you should still be crying." Her words struck a chord. Rajiv had been feeling guilty lately, not just for the small joys he found in raising Mira, but for the way his heart quickened whenever Kavita was near. As months passed, their families became intertwined. Sunday brunches, weekend trips to the park, impromptu dinner invitations when one child insisted on seeing the other. Mira began calling Kavita, Kavita auntie, with such affection that it made Rajiv's heart ache with both gratitude and uncertainty. On the 5th anniversary of Ayesha's death, Rajiv took Mira to the temple, then to the cemetery. He watched as his daughter placed flowers on her mother's grave, a mother she knew only through photographs and stories. "Papa, does Mama mind that we spend time with Kavita auntie and Arjun?" Mira asked innocently on their way home. The question stopped Rajiv in his tracks. "Why would you ask that, Beti?" "Because sometimes when you look at Kavita auntie, you look happy but also sad. Like you're doing something wrong." Children saw everything, Rajiv realized. Even the emotions adults tried to hide. That evening, after Mira was asleep, Rajiv found himself standing before Ayesha's wedding dress again. 5 years it had hung there, preserved like a relic. 5 years he had held onto a future that would never come. With trembling hands, he removed the wedding band from his pinky finger, the one he'd never had the chance to exchange with Ayesha. He held it up to the light, reading the inscription inside, "Forever begins today." Their forever had been cruelly brief. The next morning, Rajiv called a bridal charity that provided wedding dresses to women who couldn't afford them. When the volunteer arrived to collect the dress, Rajiv felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. "Your wife would be proud," the woman said kindly. "She wasn't my wife," Rajiv corrected gently. "She was my future that never got to happen." That weekend, he invited Kavita for tea after the children were asleep. Sitting on his balcony under the stars, he told her everything, about the wedding dress, about removing the ring, about his fear of dishonoring Ayesha's memory by moving forward. Kavita listened without interruption, her eyes reflecting understanding that came only from experiencing profound loss. "Love isn't finite, Rajiv," she finally said. "Loving someone new doesn't diminish what you had with Ayesha. It honors her by showing that she taught you how to love deeply enough to risk your heart again." 6 months later, on Mira's 6th birthday, Rajiv proposed to Kavita, not with grand gestures or elaborate plans, but with simple honesty and the promise of building something new together. Mira and Arjun danced around them in celebration, already considering themselves siblings. The wedding was small and meaningful, held in the same garden where their children had first played together. Rajiv wore no ring during the ceremony. Instead, he carried Ayesha's wedding band in a small pouch next to his heart. After exchanging vows with Kavita, he took a private moment to whisper his final goodbye to his first love. "Thank you for Mira," he murmured, touching the pouch. "Thank you for teaching me that life can shatter completely and still be rebuilt into something beautiful." Later that evening, as their blended families celebrated, Rajiv watched Kavita helping Mira adjust the flower in her hair. His daughter looked up at her new stepmother with such trust and affection that Rajiv felt his heart might burst. "Papa," Mira said, running to him with excitement, "Kavita mummy says we can paint my room purple next weekend." Kavita mummy, she had called her, so naturally, so easily. Not replacing her birth mother, but creating space in her heart for another kind of maternal love. Years passed. The blended family faced challenges: Arjun's struggles with accepting Rajiv's authority, Mira's occasional emotional outbursts on her mother's birthday, the birth of their half-sister who connected them all in new ways. Through it all, Rajiv kept the memory of Ayesha alive for Mira through stories and photographs, while building a new life with Kavita that honored both their pasts. On Mira's 18th birthday, Rajiv presented her with a small velvet box. "This belonged to your mother," he said as she opened it to reveal the wedding band he'd carried for so many years. "She never got to wear it, but it represents the love that brought you into this world." Mira slipped it onto a chain around her neck, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, Papa. For everything. For being both parents when you needed to be, and for knowing when to let Kavita mummy into our lives." That night, after the celebration ended and the house grew quiet, Rajiv stood on the balcony looking at the stars. He thought about the journey from that terrible day in the hospital to this moment, how a single father's whispered promise to his newborn daughter had somehow carried them through the darkest times into unexpected light. Some promises couldn't be kept, like the wedding vows he and Aisha never exchanged. But others, the ones whispered in grief and desperation, the promises to love and protect a tiny life no matter what, those were the ones that shaped destinies and healed broken hearts. As Rajiv turned to go inside, to the family that had formed from fragments of different dreams, he smiled at the knowledge that his final whisper to Aisha hadn't been final after all. It had been just the beginning of a story more complex and beautiful than he could have imagined. Life, like love, found a way to continue, not by forgetting what was lost, but by carrying it forward into something new.